as the VP marketing.
Well,
So beautiful.
yeah.
So I would love to have you share your insights, your secrets for startups. We have 42 startups from all over the world on this call, and they would love to pick your brain, hear about what should they know? You tell them what we should know. And we're going to record this if that's all right. And if there's any questions, we'll put them in the chat and we'll afterwards.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dalia. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think there are about 30 people on this call that don't have their video on, so I don't see you, and I don't know who you are. And it's very hard as it is during this Corona time to know who you're speaking to, even more so now without video. So thank you so much for turning on your video, even if it's just for a few minutes when we do this introduction. Thank you. It's great to see your faces. It's really good. And I believe you're from different places around the world, right? Not just in Israel, right? Okay, cool. You can write in the chat where from. It would be really cool so I can see it. Okay, so I think we got about an hour, even less, to chat. And Dalia asked me to do this. And since I am working like crazy since this whole Corona time started, I kind of said, no. And she kept on saying, come on, do it. Poked me until I said yes. But basically what I told her is I'm going to take my existing materials and I'm going to run the team through that material. And she said, no problem, that would work fine. And I guess she's saying it because she knows that I never do the same thing again, exactly the same. Like I always bring something new. So I did bring a presentation that I already have, and I am going to take you through it. But obviously, as a marketeer, thinking about my audience, which is you guys, and thinking about what you care right now and what you need right now, and I'm here for the next hour to give you value, I need to make sure that my talk and my presentation is landing at your seats in the end of your Zoom in the right way, because otherwise it would just be another marketing presentation, which is okay, it's good. I'm sure people need it, but you don't just need a marketing presentation, you need marketing insights that are relevant for now, and for where you stand right now, and for where you're going to take your startups or your initiatives, your projects going forward. So I will try to do that using my pre-existing materials. And I also made a little note here for myself with extra tips that I want to give you for now, for this time. So let's start. I mean, let's jump on the call, on the presentation. I'll show you slides, but I may take them off from time to time because, I mean, as much as slides and decks are informative and they help, they essentially help me guide the conversation or guide the talk. And this is something that you guys can, learn from the way that I'll be presenting to you. It's also something that you can take when you are thinking about how you present your pitch and how you come to discuss with investors, with potential customers, with partners, etc. You dance in the conversation. You don't just stick to a slide or a presentation like a robot. You want to show your character. You want to show that you are attentive and you're listening to your audience, to the people who are listening to you. You want to take questions. You don't have to answer. You can answer in the end, but at least you want to show that you're in a dialogue and you're not just in a monologue. So I will be using the presentation, but I'll be jumping in and out from time to time to see you and to give you extra information that is not on the presentation. So let's dive into it. Let's see, share screen. What is the chat saying? Emek Israel, State of Jerusalem, London, Dance Like a Drone. That's not a place, but it's nice. But this is nice, but it's only 4 people. Canada, thank you. 5. Come on, I know you can do it. It's not very hard. Where you're from, that's the question. Haifa, thank you. Jerusalem, TLV. Kfar Yona, Gadot. Ptachia, where is Ptachia? Who is that? Row 23. C and D? What does that mean? Eric Klein.
We have time between New York and Tel Aviv.
Oh, got it. Okay, great. Gibraltar, but live in Jerusalem for the last 14 years. Amazing, Isaac. Thank you. Kfar Saba. You see, people are generous when you ask them the right way. And here's a principle of marketing. And this is a conversation I have with my team all the time. They think that if you say what you want to say more than once, it will annoy people. Pavel, you're from Yavne? I'm from Yavne too. Okay. Zagreb, Croatia, amazing. Anyway, so people think that if you say the same thing more than once, it will annoy the audience. That's a mistake. That's a common mistake, because the first time you say it, people think that you didn't mean them. What? There are like 50 other people on this Zoom, right? I didn't mean you specifically, you, Marco, or you specifically, Yaniv. I meant you as in plural. But then when I said it a second time, you thought, okay, should I write where I'm from? I'm not sure. But then when I said, don't be stingy and please share, and it was the third time you shared, right? So I said the same thing 3 times. So that's the importance of repetition and consistency in marketing. Don't be afraid to repeat your message more than once in different ways that will hit the audience, because normally the first time you say something, people just ignore. They have other things they listen to. You know, there's noise, there's a lot of noise. And in order to rise above the noise, you have to be smart about it. So here you go. There's your first lesson here. Third time I got you to write where you're from. Here's my presentation. Do you see it? Yay. Good. Presentation mode. All right. Let's make this smaller. All right, so let's talk about marketing for startups. And I know Dalia wanted it to be like marketing on a budget, but I think that's like, that goes without saying these days. Everyone's on a budget. So it's like obvious. Okay. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Efrat Fenigson. I am the VP Marketing of Mindspace, Global Marketing. Mindspace has more than 30 offices around the world, in Europe and the US. We're a office space provider, boutique office spaces, high-end, beautifully designed. In the photo you're seeing San Francisco, actually, which is on lockdown right now. I mean, not the space, the city is still. It's been quite empty during the past couple of months, but we're a very, we're one of the more successful companies in this space in terms of profitability. So obviously there's a hit like for everyone, but we are pretty strong during this crisis and starting to come back now in Germany and Israel. Slowly we will come back in Romania, Poland, etc. I've been with Mindspace for the past 5 months. So I had 2.5, 3 months in the company before Corona started. I joined with a big team and big budgets and big plans, big strategy. Boom, Corona, everyone's at home. And then furloughing and budget cuts and, everything is reshuffled. So I'm kind of in a startup mode all over again. I have experience in that and I know how to adapt. So I regrouped my team very quickly and kind of re-strategized very, very short term what we're gonna do for the next few weeks. We created a few projects and we went for it. And now we're starting to recover slowly, and now we're starting to rebuild all of our sales strategies again, and marketing sales tools to support our sales team. And there's a lot of work with less resources, with less people, with less money, but we're going to do it. So this is Mindspace. I came to Mindspace after 3 years at Aerobotics, a drone startup that have raised more than $100 million. And after 1 year of being an independent consultant, working with various startups and larger companies like Netafim, for example, providing marketing consulting, mostly B2B tech or B2B, and global. I normally don't do local Israeli, just Israeli companies that are not working global. And then before that, I used to work at a Orange Group subsidiary called Viaxis Orca in the video TV space for 6 years. And before that, the Israel Export Institute. And before that, I lived in Australia, and I was a video games programmer, and I studied computer science. That is very, very short. Today, I also am one of the co-founders of GCMO, which stands for Global Chief Marketing Officer. It's a community of Israel's top CMOs in global companies. We're close to 100 people now. And I think today we're going to launch our new website. So if you follow me on social media after this talk or during this talk, you will see a post about that very soon, that we have a new website, and you'll be able to see the profiles of all our CMOs in the community, which is very, very exciting. On top of that, I have a video cast called Market Shift with my friend Eliav Alaluf that you see on the top left, on the bottom left. And we talk about marketing and strategy. It's in Hebrew. It's recorded at Google Campus in Tel Aviv. And we have 15 episodes. The latest one was released a few days ago about personal branding and career. So you're welcome to follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on your podcast application, Spotify, etc. And I also have a community of personal branding called Walk the Talk, which I run with 3 other friends that you see in the photo here. And we have collaborated to create some workshops and lectures about personal branding together. And we also have that group. So it's more than 3,000 people in that group on Facebook. And people exchange ideas and information and tips about personal branding. So if you're into it, feel free to join. So that's me in a nutshell. Let's talk about the core pillars for startups' growth and demand. So when you look at, and I'm sure this is not news for you, but let's look at that recap. So when you look at the most important pillars for startups, you obviously talk about the capital, the product, marketing, people in the company, and customers. And when we dive a bit deeper, we look at each one of those as a whole world in itself. In this talk, I'm going to focus more on the marketing side, looking more at the market side, the product side, and the corporate marketing and branding side. And I think that when you look at how you're building your marketing pillar of the organization, it's critical that you start in the right way and that you take into consideration all the fundamental principles, even if you don't implement them straight away, just so you know them and you're familiar with them, and you know that this is something you got to get to at some stage of your startup's life. And if just bear in mind that if you're building a startup and you didn't think of doing anything with marketing for the coming period, then I advise you to think again, because it's like building a table with 4 legs with only 3, and it will be shaky, and it's another reason of why it may not be stable and it may fall. Each one of these pillars is critical for the sustainability of your startup, and without it, it will just be lacking. I also invite you to consider that you're already exercising marketing to some extent, because you're doing it with your family and friends when you need to enroll them in the idea of your startup, so they provide you with that support system around you to be able to do what you do. You do that with your employees when you recruit them. You have to market what it is you do to them. You do that with investors when you pitch to them. You call it fundraising, but it's really marketing to investors. You do it with customers when you're trying to sell them. First, you do marketing to even get to them and know who they are. So you already do marketing. You just don't call, you may not call it that, and you may not have someone official in your team that is responsible for it, but we're doing marketing all the time, every day, all day. We just don't think that it's marketing. So let's look at the starting points. This is a very extensive list. It's a long list. You can take a screenshot, and I'm sure that it will be helpful for you later. We won't have time to dive deep into each and every one of these topics because each one of them is a whole discipline, but I will go through this list very briefly with you so that you get a general idea of the important pillars for you to have inside your marketing organization. So when we talk about market research, we're looking at the different verticals that you are approaching. What is the fit between your product to the market that you are aiming for? What is your TAM, your total addressable market, in quantities, in money? What is the value of your product inside that market? What is the size of that market in millions of dollars, billions of dollars? You know the math and you know your industry. What is specific market research that you need to run that is relevant for your company and your market only? Because in initial stages, you may have to prove to yourself, to your founders, to the team, or to your investors that what you're doing is the right thing. So you'll be doing quite a bit of market research at the beginning. And then ongoingly, you'll also be looking at competition to see where you are positioned in the market versus them. And I'm sure you're all doing it in your pitch decks already. And so competitive landscape is something that your marketing team should be doing over time to constantly monitor where you are. Now with Corona, it's dynamic, changing very fast. So it's very hard to do a competitive research because things that are correct today or last week may not be there next week. So you got to be just got to be aware of that. Second pillar is planning. One of the core principles in marketing is to do proper planning in terms of budget, how much money you need for the different activities that you want to run. What kind of programs do you want to run? Are they the right programs for you? And what kind of teams or people will they involve in the company? What kind of marketing mix do you want to have? Marketing is never just a one thing, a one activity type or one type of investment. I'm going to do PR and that's it. And that's not marketing. Like that's putting a band-aid on a problem that you think you have. A marketing mix is actually mixing different types of marketing tactics into your plan so that you touch your audiences in various places, in various times, in various ways, so that they react to you the way you want them to react. Team members. So what kind of team members do you need for each one of your activities or projects or programs? That's also part of the planning. Branding and messaging. So when you do an extensive process of brand strategy, sorry, just one sec, I want to fix something on my screen. There we go. Okay. So when you do a brand strategy process, you look at your company and you ask yourself questions that will help you create a strong, appealing, compelling, and differentiated brand for your company versus other players in the market. And you'll be looking at your values, your identity, your look and feel, your brand essence and promise. You'll be looking at various things to create that brand. You can do that on your own if you have someone in the team that can run you through that process, or you can do it with freelancers or agencies that specialize in brand strategy. And essentially, a result of a process like that will be a brand platform that you will create, that out of that brand platform, you will know your audience very well, you will know yourself very well, you will know how you need to present yourself externally, and you will start building your messaging based on that. What is my message for every audience, for every type of customer, for every type of product that I have? How do I define my product market fit in the right way, etc.? So branding is a lot more than just logo and colors that people think that branding is, right? Branding is really creating the fundamental building blocks of your brand. And here's a good analogy of what branding is versus marketing. So marketing is like asking someone out on a date. Branding is the reason they say yes, right? So it's like building the context for your audience to say yes to what you want them to do. So when I started the conversation with you, we didn't have a strong relationship yet, but somehow I managed to get you to say yes to my question of where you're from. And I've built something with you, right? So marketing was the ask. It was, tell me where you're from. And it didn't work. And then I did it again. I did it in a different way. So I started building something with you, and then you said yes. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable to not do it, but it worked finally. It's a very superficial example, but you get what I mean. So when you build a brand, especially for the long term, you're basically setting the arena for people to receive your messages, okay? Product marketing, so your value proposition, your core value proposition, what it is that you're selling, your sales enablement tools, I'm in number 4 here, yeah? Your pricing, everything to do with product marketing goes here. Technology, what kind of tech do you need to support your marketing? Do you need a marketing automation system, a CRM, an analytics platform? You all know that this is not something new. What kind of tools you can use to enable your marketing operation. Content, what kind of content marketing strategy you're going to have in place? What are the things you're going to talk about? Where are you going to talk about it? To which audience? In which way? And content is a huge topic, and it's very, very relevant right now during this time when people are low on budget and when people are still not fully back in the offices and they have a higher attention span to content. They're reading more, they're consuming more content. This is your time to start playing and working in that arena. And it can include PR. It can include content that will go out to journalists, reporters, analysts. It can include your search engine optimization strategy, what kind of content you're creating so that Google will indicate it as valuable content and rank you up on search results. And it can include even your content for your personal brand. And the reason why I put a star next to personal branding is because, first of all, it's a whole topic within itself. But secondly, because I'm not sure it relates. I didn't have the right place to put it. I admit it in this slide. I just put it in the last minute. It doesn't relate just to content. It relates to so many things. And personal brand, I would have done like a whole pillar just for it, another red line with personal branding on it, and then give you the breakdown of it. But I didn't have time to do it. But personal branding is huge, and it is part of content, but it's so much more than that. Through your personal brand, you can really bring to life the human beings in your company that will be in the front and help create more attention to your product and to your company. It's another, I know it's like, it sounds strange saying that, but it's another marketing channel, right? I do personal branding and I do it all the time for myself, and I don't really need to do it to answer my own personal goals anymore of, you know, progressing in my career and getting the offers I want and all these things. I do it mostly to support the brands that I am working for. So whether it's Mindspace now and Aerobotics before and other brands that I have used to work for. So personal branding, if done right, can be a huge, huge asset to your company, because you'll be putting human beings in the front, and people relate to people more than they relate to made up entities like your company name or logo or whatever it is. The last thing is the distribution and the lead generation. So again, there is so much to say about that, but just in a few words, there are so many ways you can distribute your content to the right audiences. The right way to go about it is to check where your target audience is. Where do they consume their content? Which outlets? Is it digital? Is it offline? Is it in person? Is it the old traditional way of doing sales? Or is it, I don't know, on Quora, for example? Is it through outbound efforts? I will have to reach out to them to get to them. Or is it inbound? I will just put content out there and they will get to me. So each audience is different. Each product is different. Each company is different. But there's a whole art around deciding which distribution channels will work best for you and for your company. Okay, that was a lot of information, but let's keep going. Okay. Good quote that I always use from one of our gurus in marketing, Seth Godin. People do not buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. Try to remember that when you do your marketing. I don't look at marketing as, and this is a common misconception, marketing is sales, right? We push something out to people. Marketing is not sales. If marketing is all about building relations, and telling stories and creating magic with audiences, then wow, then you want to be part of marketing. So if you do marketing in that way and you just look at how you provide value to people and how you say the right thing to the right audience, create relationship with them and build trust over time, then they want to follow you. They want to be your customer. They want to be there with you. Okay, I'll skip the story part and I'll run to this. This chart is very relevant in non-corona times. Now, face-to-face, it's a little bit difficult. Take a look at it for a sec. So obviously, the blue part, the online part, you all know quite well right now after spending 2 months at home consuming content and looking at all these blue channels that are written here. You've participated in online conferences, you've seen online advertising, you know what search is, you have received lots of emails, blogs, you know everything. But then look at the orange part. This is what we know, let's call it from the physical world, from the real world. And I'm a very digital savvy marketeer. I love doing online and digital, but I never forget the face-to-face. And I think now more than ever, you guys can relate to it. I'll even stop sharing for that, because the face-to-face is irreplaceable. Like, we all need that. We need the human connection. We need to look to people in the face and in the eyes when we speak to them and see what their reaction is, and get a sense of how our messages are landing on the other side for them. And we know that when we spend time with people physically and not just through digital means, our connections and our results with those people are normally stronger and more impactful than through digital channels, right? correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I always feel that after a meeting with someone, it's like there's this background of relatedness that is hard. Like a 1 hour meeting with someone one-on-one is different than a Zoom with someone, right? It's totally different ball game. So don't forget that this will be over at some point, and you'll be able to go back to your normal, not normal, but not even go back. Sorry, I'm taking it back. You'll be able to go out to a new reality, a new type of life, because I don't think we're going back. I think we're going forward into something else, but it will be there. The human connection is needed. People need to spend time with each other and learn from each other. And in marketing, it is something so important that cannot be replaced. And it's true that online and digital marketing works, but it works so much better when you amplify it with the physical face-to-face kind of channels. So I'm going back to my presentation. Yeah, don't forget this part. Speaking at events, networking, just doing stuff on, you know, mail, normal mail on the post and not emails, print publications. This is direct mail, right? Calling people and not just texting them and then hearing them. There's a lot more to it. So don't forget all that stuff. It's super important when you do your marketing. All right, another good one from Seth. Don't worry about getting big, but worry instead about being important. What does he mean? Seek out the smallest viable audience, because that audience will demand you make something special. And if it is special, they'll tell their friends. And as you all know, there is nothing more strong or successful than a friend's recommendation. That word of mouth that we all know and appreciate. When we need something, we go and ask the closest people to us or the professional people what they recommend. So if you do it with the smallest and the most relevant group of audience for you, and you do it right, you will build that small, great group of people around you that will be able to be your ambassador. So don't think about doing it big, just think about doing it right and being important for the right audience, okay? And this is again a big talk in itself, but when you do start dealing with media, just so again that you have it in the back of your head when you're starting to plan your marketing, your media will be constructed of 3 types of media. First one is owned media, your website, your blog, your social media channels, your mobile site, your application, any digital asset that you have, your Facebook group, right? Like mine, the Walk the Talk group. It's an owned media, it's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. The same with my Market Shift podcast, it's mine. So anything you can create that is your own, you control it, is what you need to start with, because that will go a long way with you. No one can take this from you. Obviously, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg can take everything from any one of us at any moment, but you know what I mean. And when you build those digital assets, you have them, they go with you, and you start requesting from people to sign up and register to your database, whether it's a CRM that you're running or a marketing automation tool that is collecting people's addresses. You have a repository, or even if it's just an Excel sheet, that's where you hold your customers' data. You have a repository of your audience, and you can grow it with time, and you can lead to it from different digital assets, so that you have your database of contacts that will grow, and no one can take that away from you. So start with that. It's also one of those things that is less capital intensive. So if you're building something from scratch right now, start there. Earned media is all the media mentions you will earn without paying anyone. For example, you will be mentioned in a blog post as one of the top 10 companies in health tech, right? Or you will be, you'll have a feature article in TechCrunch on your recent funding. You've earned it. You didn't pay the reporter for it. How you got to that reporter, that's a different question. You may have paid and worked with a PR agency or a PR freelancer, or you may have done it yourself, but it doesn't have to be paid. And you can do that as well, right? Have your earned media channels up and running, if I may say. Think about that, because that takes strategy, that takes investment, that takes time. Sometimes it takes money, depending if you have it. And then paid media is when you have it and you are willing to invest. Then you start looking at advertising and retargeting and influencers and social media ads, etc., etc. And you can create more demand for your product and obviously collect that demand. When you have those 3 media circles up and running, you get that sweet spot in the middle where you can leverage each one of those media types to support and complement the other ones. And when you have all of that operating and running, you have a good marketing operation running. Okay? When that happens, it's the magic that Seth Godin is talking about. Okay. What's the time? Let's see. Okay, we have what, 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes, I think, right, Dalia?
Yes.
Just so yeah, okay. I'll take you through a few examples from Aerobotics world, because I started at Aerobotics when we were 50 people. It was a small startup, and it grew to 250 people. Now they scaled down again, but it's a very good case study, and I'll share with you just a few things that we did at the beginning, because I think it can be relevant for some of you. So Aerobotics, as I said before, is a drone startup in Petah Tikva. And before we launched the company, we were in stealth mode. And we thought about the best way of launching, like what can bring us the most attention and how we will start creating the attraction to our product in the relevant markets. The markets that we were aiming for were mining, oil and gas, and industrial facilities. And the first geographical market was Australia. After that, we went to the US and Israel. Israel was our beta site. So when we came to launch, we already had 2 beta customers in Israel. And then we wanted to launch and get our first customers in Australia and in mining or oil and gas. So we started with, we had about 7 or 8 weeks from the moment I had planned the marketing plan and the strategy of launching until the moment we've launched, and then kicked off the external work. But during that 7 or 8 weeks, we were building all of our owned assets, what I was talking to you before about. We did a brand strategy process to define what our brand would look like, who we are, what we look like, what our messaging is. We created a messaging document for the whole company so everyone's on the same page. We did our presentation, we did brochures, we created some sales tools for the sales team. We were ready on the content side. I hired a designer as well that helped me design everything according to the look and feel of the company. And we started developing the website consistent with the messaging that I was sharing with you now. And I've put together all of the social media pages. You see all the icons at the bottom, not the bottom, in the middle here. We had all that up and running when we started with minimum content, just a little bit. And we put together this simple landing page on the website about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before we launched. And we started teasing gradually externally on social media and through friends and family that in 2 or 3 weeks we're launching a company from stealth, and we cannot say anything about it. As you can see in this landing page, it doesn't even show a drone. So no one knew what aerobotics is. There were hints because you can see the line saying there's something in the air, and you can see the name Aerobotics. It implies that it's something in the air, right? But we didn't say that it's a drone company, and we tried to create some hype around that. We created banners, visual banners that show just parts of the prop or of the body of the drone or of the landing, the docking station of the drone, and we put them out on social media. So they started circulating, not virally, but amongst fans of drones around the world. They picked up on Twitter and on different channels where people were curious to know what's coming. So for those 2 weeks, that's what we had on our website, and we received about 400 email addresses from people that have left their email on this box, pressed send, and I already had about 400 addresses when I wanted to launch, which is not bad at all. Obviously, we synchronized everything with our investors and our partners. So everyone was ready for the 21st of June, 2016. I will never forget that date. And so we had our website up and running, our social media up and running, our content up and running. All that content was also downloadable from the website when people will go there. I cannot do a physical launch because Aerobotics is a very heavy, physically heavy and big system, so we cannot move it around. So our launch was digital. It was the website going out with an article in the paper about us that we have, again, planned in advance. We sourced the right reporter. We pitched the reporter the story about Aerobotics. She came over to the office and she interviewed the CEO, and she sent out a film crew to take some photos, and it was all ready, and we agreed with her. She got an exclusive, and it was from Bloomberg. We agreed with her that on the 21st of June, she's going to launch the article, and we're going to launch the website, and it's all going to be there. And actually, that's what happened. It was a few hours late, but it worked like magic. And that was the article, Secret Israeli Drone Maker Has Funds, Clients, Autonomous Robots. And it was a beautiful article, very long, on Bloomberg. And I don't have to tell you that Bloomberg is not just a newspaper or a publication. They're also a news agency, which means that there are thousands of news outlets around the world that are subscribed to Bloomberg News Agency, and they get Bloomberg's articles. And so once that was out, we saw this article or something similar to it in many other languages, in many other countries, without paying anyone anything, except for the PR firm that we worked with. So the investment we made on paying a retainer to the PR agency definitely proved itself right at the beginning, because through this exposure, we got on the first day tens of thousands of visitors to the new website. I don't have to tell you the meaning of that for Google and how much they ranked us up on drones and autonomous drones, etc., because of that traffic. And we started receiving leads, some of them also from Australia. So it was a lot easier to start or kick off the conversation with potential customers or investors from that point onwards, because we already had, first of all the infrastructure ready, but also this article from Bloomberg, and not just any blog out there, which is credible by itself. So that was a really cool move that really helped us. And from that day onwards, we started receiving a lot of requests to come physically to our offices and see the drones in action and get a tour and understand better how the technology works and the innovation and the product and the markets, etc. So this photo of mine with a group of people from the UK, obviously mostly men, as it is unfortunately still, happened on a weekly basis from all over the world. Like people came to Israel to see Aerobotics, and until we had an office in the US and in Australia, and then we held obviously those tours there as well. We got our first customer in Australia a couple of months after the launch, so around August or September 2016. And the customer actually came through me through LinkedIn. So I had a chat with that specific person. I reached out to him. He was a CTO of a mining company in West Australia. And I reached out to him after we did some research and looked at various mining companies in Australia. And I told him that I'm coming to visit a trade show in West Australia in August, and whether he wants to meet. And obviously I could send the link to an article. There were many articles about us in those 2 months already, so I had a lot of ammunition. And he said, yes, no problem. And we met, and a few weeks later, the deal was already signed. So that was like the beginning of our operation in Australia. So there's so much more in this presentation, but we don't have time. And I want to leave time for your questions. So, but hey, hold on, my notes. Let me see that I've covered everything I put here. Okay, so here are my few tips for this time on doing marketing on a budget. Focus on content. So focus on your topics. What exactly? Try to narrow down and to articulate for yourself what kind of topics of conversation you should focus your content on in the next few weeks or months. Don't go too broad, and write it down for yourself so that you know, because I'm sure you can talk about many things related to the product and to the market and to the people, but you gotta like find those key messages that will speak the most relevantly to your audience and to the media right now. Okay, so focus on content, focus on the content topics that you're going to cover. Work on personal brands, whether it's you yourself or other people in your company. Encourage them to put themselves or yourself in the front and start building yourself as a brand, not just the company. You are an expert in the area that you are covering, right? So I'm now in office spaces. I want to be the go-to person. And it's only 5 months in Mindspace, but people ask me questions about offices and working from home and working from the office already, because I talk about that. So when you position yourself as an expert in the market that you're in, and you do it right, and you start posting content from your own personal channels, people will start approaching you, whether it's reporters or customers or other people in the industry from your ecosystem. They will come to you and ask questions. And if you are perceived as an expert, they will come more to you than to other people. And they will associate you with that world of content. And you want to be associated with that world of content because it's good for your brand and your company, right? It's good for your personal brand, but it's also good for your company's brand. So focus on personal branding during this time. If you want more resources on personal branding, then you're welcome to join our Facebook group on, it's called Walk the Talk. Social media. So use social media channels to convey your messages and to distribute your topics. It's free when you do it organically, but you got to do it right. So invest some time in learning the rules of posting content on the different platforms. There are some rules in how to do it right on LinkedIn, how to do it right on Facebook, how to do it right on Pinterest if you have visual stuff, or Instagram, how to do it right on Twitter. What's the frequency? What time of day? How much should I write? How much visual? What type of visual? Do I do video? What type of video? Is it short form, long form? Do I take a production company or do I do it with my iPhone? Right? So social media, very, very, very strong, very low budgets. PR, we talked about it a little bit. Pitch the relevant reporters in your industry. You can do it yourself, or you can use freelancers that will help you do it. But it's important to get to the media, and it's important to do it right, because there is a lot of noise right now, and there's a lot of pitching going around. And if you want to get their attention, you have to pitch it in the right way. You have to talk about things that people care about right now. And you want to be sensitive to the time, to Corona time, right? If you now come and pitch your product or your solution and it has zero relevancy to what's going on right now, I'm not saying that they won't pick it up. I'm just saying that it may be pushed for later because they want to talk about or publish things that are more relevant for people right now, because they know that that's what the audience cares about right now. So if it means that you want to wait a few weeks, then wait, okay? But at least during that time, you can work on mapping the relevant reporters or the relevant publications that you will be pitching to when things change. Online events, you see them all the time, just like the one we're doing right now. Webinars or Zoom sessions, or they can be fancier or simpler. And they can be one-on-one, they can be group, they can be in various shapes and forms, but in the end of the day, they are online events. I did a webinar about online events about a month ago. So if you want a recording of that, it's on my LinkedIn, or you can ask me, I will share with you a link to the recording. It's a 1 hour watch of myself and Perry from Penguin Strategies, and we talk about how to run efficient online events. And remember that it's when it comes to online events, it's more about the quality versus quantity. So don't worry about doing 10 of them, like a series of 10 now. Just worry about doing 1 or 2 and doing them right, with the right partners, with the right people, with the right content. Invest in your content, okay?
I don't want to cut you off, Efrat, but I want to let people ask their questions.
Yeah. I'm in the last
one.
bullet. I'm in the last bullet. Direct outreach. I told you about our first customer. Direct outreach using LinkedIn, very, very powerful. But don't use sponsored stuff like, in mails or all that stuff. Just normal messages. Just map your audience. Find the right targets. I'm assuming most of you are in B2B, so you kind of know who your typecasts are. Find them and outreach. That's it.
Nice. It's amazing. It was really, really, really right for our audience. Before we go into questions, there's been some questions if you could share your presentation.
Oh, yeah, I'll share.
Beautiful. Okay. So the other question we have here.
Okay, someone asked social media. I've searched, where do you learn the rules? I promise you, if you Google how to post content on Facebook, you will get hundreds of articles. Pick the best one and just read it. Same about LinkedIn. Okay? Just rules for content on LinkedIn. Just put those words in there. You'll find stuff. Very easy.
There was a question about your Bloomberg article. Did you have to pay?
Not to Bloomberg. You can't pay reporters. If a reporter is asking you to pay, then they're not a reporter, because it's against ethical laws of journalism. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a PR agency that helped you get into that?
I did. I mentioned it. I did. Yes. I paid a retainer to a PR agency, and it was very much worth the money. But today, when people are short on money, then either do it yourself and reach out to relevant reporters, or hire a freelancer for a project or for a short amount of time and use someone else's services to help you do it. CNBC asked us to pay 50K. So that's not an article, that's an advertorial or something along those lines, right? CNBC, if they asked you to pay 50K, it means that they want to sell some package to you, some content package. It's not a normal article. They probably will have in small print written somewhere that it's a paid content or content marketing or
They called it a TV show with Ted Danson.
With Ted Danson. So that's TV. Yeah, that's like content marketing. They will put you in as one of their items. It's like a morning show. You sometimes pay for these things, but that's not journalism, right? That's
yeah, people can't tell the difference.
Obviously, yeah, correct. So, well, it depends which people. What do you mean? The audience can't tell the difference? Or the
you go on Dr. Karasik in the morning. Some people get on for free and some people pay.
Right. The audience won't know. It's correct. But some of the people know, some don't. It doesn't matter. It's called pay for play. If you have the budget for it, go for it. I try to stay away from pay for play. I find it just not the right way of doing it. I'm not saying that if I had 300,000 spare now, I wouldn't think of what to do with my money, but most of us are not in that situation. What else? It seems that in our stage, most tasks are critical and the ROI is immediate. How should we incorporate marketing and branding that are less immediate and the results are not linked directly to the actions taken? Okay, so when you start working on your owned media channels, you will not see results straight away. You will work on your website and your blog and your social media pages and all your digital assets. And it's a long-term investment, and you have to have those fundamentals in order to start marketing. So some of the things you will do will not show you immediate ROI. For example, buying a marketing automation system. You're investing money and you don't see the results straight away. But when you start doing email marketing and social media posting and content marketing on your website and build your website in such a way that will generate leads by people leaving details on forms, then that's when you'll start seeing the return on investment, right? And measure that against the investment you put at the beginning and setting up all your foundations. I hope that answered the questions. Not everything is ROI driven. It's right. What else? Did I miss another question?
I don't think so. I have just a generic question for everyone at this stage. They don't have a CMO. What should we be looking for when you want to hire your first CMO? And then there's another question that just popped up. So you can answer that one first.
Okay, so you're looking for your first marketing position. How should you be looking for it, and what kind of person? I always advise not to start with a junior person, because there will be such a gap for that person. Yes, it will be cheap for you, cheaper than getting a senior executive, but it's not going to pay off in the long run because you're not going to do marketing right. If you bring a senior person that have done marketing before, that knows how to run a marketing operation, that knows how to look at research with you and grow the company with you right from the beginning, that person will later build the whole team and it can, onboard the rest of the team. So that investment pays off in the long run if you can afford it. I would go for a senior executive. I would go for someone, again, depends if it's B2B, B2C, and what type of industry, but I wouldn't even insist on someone that has a relevant industry to the one that I'm in. What's more important is the marketing skills, at least in B2B. I've never done office spaces before, and I've never done drones before I did aerobotics, but it doesn't matter. I can learn, a good marketeer can learn an industry. They cannot learn the skills for good marketing. So look at their marketing skills versus their industry background. So I hope that helps. What do
That's
you
great.
think about staying on stealth mode as you did until you're really ready for sales versus publishing from the first second you start? So that's a strategy decision, and I think that it really depends on whether you have the oxygen and the time and the funding to be a bit more strategic and planned on how you're going to launch yourself, or are you short on funds and time and you have to start getting those leads and demands straight away? Because if you do have money in the bank and time to live, then you may want to strategize and build a gradual stealth mode exit strategy, as I did. But if you are short on funds and you don't have a long time to live, then you may not have the right time for it. You need time if you want to be on stealth and you want to build some hype and you want to do something while you're on stealth, so when you go out of stealth it's significant, right? Because you're creating an event, you're creating something, a milestone. So I would suggest that you do that if you have the time and the oxygen to do it and the funding. And even if you, I mean, it's powerful because when you say you're in stealth, you're creating interest straight away because people want to know what it is. People love secrets. So it's something, if you can consider it, consider it. If it's not an option for you, then obviously there's no question.
Awesome. We can take one last question with Efrat. Thank you for joining us. I know you're really busy, especially at this time. I really appreciate it. Seriously, every time you speak, I learn something. Really, really amazing.
Yay, that's great. Thank you, guys. It was really good meeting you. So
really
Sign language, thank you. High five to Efrat. Really greatly appreciate it. And don't go anywhere, all you startups. We are launching straight into our first all hands of the program. We try to do one of these once a month.
Josh, real quick.
It's a chance for us to check in. Evan?
Yeah, so to get your minds jogging about what you want to talk about and make some announcements. First of all, a lot of you have been having great meetings with a lot of you guys. So a lot of you have been asking about competition and what exactly that is, what you guys are judged on. So look out for that in the weekly email. I'll put a link to the information that's on our dashboard. You guys, a lot of you have also had some trouble with the video sharing. The way we're doing it, the emails haven't working, it's not linked up, you're not